Hi guys, we're going to do a quick review here of the Baofeng UV-3R. Before we get into it, I'm going to do a quick wrist check. Today we've got the Bertucci DX3 field watch. This is with a nylon NATO style strap, and this is the poly resin case with the Swiss loom here on the dial. So everyone knows about the ubiquitous Baofeng UV-3R, right? So this is the radio that everyone has that has quite a bag of mixed reviews. Folks will accuse it of spurious emissions and among other things. But the predecessor to the UV-3R is in most cases regarded as the UV-3R, which we have in front of us. So I did take some of the packaging off of this and charge it up before this video, but for the most part we're just going to do a high level overview and go through some of the high level features as well. That way when folks think about getting one of these for fun, because I wouldn't really recommend these for recreational use or frequent use, you kind of know what you're getting into. So of course in the box we've got the instruction manual, pretty self-explanatory. I found the Baofeng manuals to be actually pretty good. I don't have a problem with them, but it's mainly because I'm not, even though I'm an amateur radio operator, you know, I mean, they're pretty easy to understand. A couple other things in the box. So we've got the radio itself. This does not come with the rubber duck antenna on it. It's going to be up here. So you've got radio, which is pretty small. So in comparison to the UV-3R, it's significantly smaller as far as, you know, pocket size goes, and significantly slimmer. Not sure on the actual dimensions, but without the pocket clip on this thing, it is tiny. And the antenna is also a stubby antenna as well. So we've got radio. We also have the infamous pocket clip. We've got the power brick, and of course this is the American version. Also the notorious Baofeng earpiece and microphone. The charging cable, which is not a USB, mini or micro on the receiving end here. It does have USB here for the actual brick. This is not a programming cable, this is just for charging. Another staple in the Baofeng arena, the orange lanyard. Some of the older models, especially the red and yellow Baofengs, you would get one of these that was branded Baofeng. And then you've also got the rubber duck antenna. This is a stubby. And this thing is particularly interesting. This is the drop-in charger. And at first I was really struggling to find out where you actually plugged into this, because it's a ABS plastic, very, you know, kind of thin. Didn't feel like there was really much to it, and there's not. But actually if you look, and maybe a little there's a little pinhole here for you to actually drop your connector in and make that connection for charging. Then you can of course just drop the radio in. Makes it just a little bit simpler. But for all intents and purposes, we're just going to take a look at the radio, turn it on, and go through a few very basic controls. We'll go through more in the future. So essentially the first thing you're going to want to do is charge this thing. I recommend putting the antenna on just in case you bump a button, because you don't ever want to transmit without an antenna on, and mistakes do happen. So before you charge it, just screw this on, tighten it a bit but not too much. We'll move all this stuff out of the way. So the actual user interface here is fairly simple. So you've got your FA, your LR, and then you've got your PTT, power, your mode, your menu, and your volume. Then of course here you've got your actual plug-in if you were going to charge using the charging cable, and you've got your programming and your mic. This is what you're going to use with a proprietary Baofeng or a knockoff Baofeng charging cable. This is one, I think, for the for the BFT1. This is a USB. And I've got another one here for the UV-3R, but this actually uses a different programming cable. And then, of course, you've got your light up here, and your actual selector switch here, which kind of, it doesn't do anything when it's locked down. Pop this up, and you can select through. So once it's on, it's going to tell you how many volts you have as far as charge goes. You're going to be able to cycle from your very high frequency to ultra high frequency. So that's your U and V. Menu is pretty basic. It's going to be like the rest of the Baofeng menus, so I won't bother going through that. But for the most part, it's a very simple operation. You're going to be able to change your channels. I'm not sure if there's a mode for steps, but this is going to be set at 25, which is not going to be ideal for UHF VHF. But for the most part, at least you can select, because when we go through the BFT one in a separate video, you're going to see that you actually have to program the BFT one to have any channel selection, because it's always in memory mode. This does have a frequency mode, which is pretty nice. So when you're in the menu, just to go back to it, the way to select is to use the selector switch. So you can go through light key, beep, which actually I usually turn that off. Your Vox, which I also prefer not to have on. I like PTT. And then also power. I believe the power modes in this are 1 watt and 3 watts output power. I could be wrong there though. And here's your step. I mentioned that was 25. Should be 5 typically for VHF, UHF. Your offset frequency for repeaters. Your shift keying. And you've got a couple other options here that I really haven't explored what they actually do, because some of the nomenclature on these Baofengs is a little bit different than a commercial ham radio. So anyway, we'll go back to this. Volume, you can also make your selection here. I don't actually have a frequency jammed in. So what I'm going to do is go over to step and see if I can adjust the step to 5K, confirm that. And then I'm actually going to take this to a basic receiving station, the NOAA weather station. And this is going to take forever. And I don't think there's a way to actually step over. So you're basically going in, I should have made it 1K, I'm sorry. Should have made it 50K just to go faster and then shortened it for tuning. But this may give us a taste here. This is going to take forever. So we'll go step. 25 is the maximum. For the most part, you know, this radio is not bad if you're looking to kind of play around and get a taste for what radios are doing. But the UV-3R is really the suggestion for most amateurs that are just starting out, because it's cost effective and it actually has some features that are going to mimic something on like a Yaesu HT. So without getting into a real demo with this, the high level overview, which I'll do a little bit more in depth later on, is, you know, it's a very compact radio. It's nothing I would suggest that for actually, you know, using. A lot of folks like to throw these in their bug out bags. Whether or not that's really a great idea. I mean, I wouldn't suggest throwing one of these in your bug out bag unless you plan on having some spare batteries, because the cells that are in these batteries aren't just, they're not the best. Same with the UV-3Rs. But I will say, you know, the UV-3R has a lot more features, because you can actually key in your frequency, right? Instead of like, you know, I was sitting here like trying to go through these for the video just to get up to something that's intelligible that we could listen to on the NOAA band, but that's going to take forever, right? So actually getting this into a frequency is going to take a long time. Of course, once you actually have memory and you've programmed this radio, it's going to be a lot more user-friendly because, of course, when you go into memory mode, you can just step through memory 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So again, not too bad. It's worth mentioning that the UV-3R has been discontinued. This is the last part of the video that I wanted to save because it's noteworthy, right? The fact that this actual radio had to come from China. You can't order these on Amazon anymore. And as the UV-5R becomes more scarce, I think we might see folks looking for alternatives. However, this isn't going to be one of those alternatives. This is kind of a niche Baofeng radio. They have a couple models that are similar to this that are very small handhelds. Of course, they've got DMRs as well. But for the most part, if you want one of these things, you're going to have to go out of your way to get it. And good luck getting one, because even the ones that are shipping from China via eBay, sometimes those don't get the whole way over to the States. Now, if you're ordering from somewhere else that's closer to China, you might have a little bit more success, but I've heard many reports of folks on forums and on Reddit that actually aren't seeing these orders coming in for whatever reason. So for the most part, if you want to snag one of these things just as a novelty, I would suggest getting it soon because they are discontinued. The stock of these is going to go down. So the UV-5R, you know, these usually retail for about 30 bucks. The most basic version, of course, without any sort of color schemes or other features or a higher wattage output. And these are about $25. So I would say, you know, if you want to get one of these as a novelty, sure, go ahead and get it. But for the most part, the UV-5R is going to be something you can actually use. This has 5 watts of output power, where these only have 3 maximum with a low setting of 1. These are also a lot more user-friendly. But again, if you're looking to use one of these all the time, you might as well just spend the extra money and get a Yaesu if you're going to get licensed. But if you want to throw something in your bag for an emergency situation, these are probably a better option than these, easy. But at the same time, I also always encourage folks to go out and get their license, because just looking at basic videos and planning on using this and taking your skills out of the bag, so to speak, those are perishable skills. So if you're not actually using the skills and practicing ham radio, it may be difficult for you to actually just pick this up out of your bag 2 years after you buy it and get it going, especially if you're not swapping the battery out all the time to make sure that it's charged. If you program it one single time and you don't, you know, program the right frequencies, or you don't actually know what you're doing when you're programming it, you may end up with channels that are totally unusable. So I would suggest, you know, getting at least involved in a local radio club, taking your exam, learning your way around a ham radio, because that's always a great first step. So for the most part, this shows a little bit of the difference between these two radios and a quick general overview of this. I wish we could have started using it, but again, I have not programmed this yet. This was pretty much straight out of the box, and if anything, it does show just how much effort it takes when this thing is on to go through frequencies. So hopefully this helps and in your purchase decision, and we'll talk to you next time.